Hey guys, Dan here with you. Today's quarantine video is something I did not plan on, but yesterday came the news that lead singer of the band Fountains of Wayne and a very, very prolific songwriter, Adam Schlesinger, died of coronavirus complications. He was only 52 years old. I had heard he was in a coma like maybe just a day before because of corona, and then came the news yesterday that he had passed on. And, you know, originally, of course, when Corona was coming out, we were hearing it was affecting all these older people mainly. But, you know, we've seen now a couple of people in the music world just in the last few days pass away. I was not familiar with country star Joe Diffie. I'd heard the name before, but, I mean, I didn't know any of his songs and still really don't. But he had a ton of, like, #1 and top 10 country hits in the 80s and 90s. So, you know, I know that was a big deal to several people on my Facebook page. But for me, Adam Schlesinger was the one that really was like, oh, this sucks, dude. You know. So let me tell you a little history about my experience with this band, Fountains of Wayne, and with Adam specifically. I mean, I never met him or anything, but I was a sophomore in college when the first Fountains of Wayne album came out, and here's my whole collection, by the way, of the CDs I have with Adam Schlesinger. I know it's a lot, so I've got. We'll talk about all of these briefly, but I have the soundtrack to That Thing You Do, one of my favorite movies, literally like in my top 5 of all time movies. His band Ivy had 3 full-length CDs, so I have all of those, and then I have a remix single for one of the songs. And then here's my Fountains of Wayne collection. So I have the debut album. I have one of the singles from that. I have their second album, Utopia Parkway. I have one of the singles from that. And then this, Welcome Interstate Managers, is like, I'll talk about it, but I mean, it's like their freaking masterpiece. I have two of the radio singles from that, just because they were, I think they were edited or something. And then I have this. This is from the '90s, actually, right after the first album was released. It's a Christmas song, "I Want an Alien for Christmas." And then I also have a 2-disc B-sides collection they released in 2005 called Out of State Plates. So they released 5 albums in all, not including the B-sides collection. So I don't have their last 2 albums they released. And he was in a band called Tinted Windows with Taylor Hanson and Bun E. Carlos from Cheap Trick, among some others. And I have a couple of the Tinted Windows songs downloaded, but I don't have the album. But anyway, so I was a sophomore in college when this album came out, the self-titled Fountains of Wayne. And we had a music director at our college station that was working as an intern for Atlantic Records at the time, and these guys were just signed. So he was like, he put in a bunch of Atlantic Records artists into our college radio rotation, even if they were sort of mainstream. And this was one of them, because Radiation Vibe, which was the first single, did do okay at alternative radio, and on the Billboard Top 100, it made number 71 on the airplay chart. But we had about 4 different songs from this album in rotation at our college station. We had Leave the Biker, Sink to the Bottom, Barbara H., and, of course, Radiation Vibe. So, yeah, I mean, this was a big deal. My friend Jim was a huge fan. I mean, every radio show he did, he played at least one of the cuts from Fountains of Wayne. So, you know, that was a big hit for me in college, and I love those guys right away. And that same year is when That Thing You Do came out, and this movie, oh my god! I actually thought, until I looked it up today, that he had written most of the songs from this album, but Adam did not. He actually only wrote the title cut, That Thing You Do. But that was a hit unto itself. It made the top 50 on Billboard. It did okay at adult contemporary radio, and I have the 45 vinyl single for it somewhere, but my 45s unfortunately are not in the order I would like them to be in, so I don't know where it is. But I certainly have the soundtrack, which the whole soundtrack's great. But he was nominated for an Oscar for that song. He lost out to Evita and the song "You Must Love Me," which he also lost the Golden Globe to that. But I don't know which is the song with more lasting power. I mean, you would probably know "Don't Cry for Me, Argentina" from Evita, but "You Must Love Me," the Madonna ballad. I mean, it was a hit at the time, but I mean, That Thing You Do. If anybody that's seen the movie knows that song and hopefully likes it. So that was a fairly big hit for him as well. And then Utopia Parkway came out. I've never actually heard this album in full because the two singles released on it, Denise and Red Dragon Tattoo, I didn't think were all that great. So I never ended up listening to the whole album, but I guess I should do that now. And then in 2003, this album came out, Welcome Interstate Managers. I was working at an alternative rock station at the time. This is the album with Stacy's Mom on it. That's the song that most people know from this band. And, obviously it was a big hit, and it was up for a Grammy Award, and it was up for they were up for Best New Artist because of that. Even though they'd been around a while, Best New Artist is usually like the year that an artist really makes their impact into the mainstream, and that was this year for them. They lost out to Evanescence, which, dude, I can't deny Evanescence, especially that first album, was awesome. I can't deny that. But I did, at the end of the decade, I was still working in radio slightly. I was back at my college station doing sort of a free-form show, and I did my top 50 albums of the decade, and this album just missed the top 10. I think it was like number 11 or 12. I don't have the list anymore, but this, I mean, every song on this, there's 16 songs on this, and everyone's freaking awesome. Like, Stacy's Mom is the pop hit, and that's fine. But, Bright Future in Sales is great. Valley Winter Song, All Kinds of Time. I love that song. The NFL used to use that in promos when it came out. Hey Julie is great. That was a single. Super Collider is really good. And, of course, Stacy's Mom is on here, too. The song Hackensack was covered, actually, by Katy Perry on her MTV Unplugged show. So if you are familiar with that performance or have the Katy Perry Unplugged album, Hackensack, that is a Fountains of Wayne song. And, I don't think she acknowledges it, but it is. And they're from New Jersey, which is, Hackensack, and that's actually where they got their name. There was a store called Fountains of Wayne. But, this to me is their, like Sgt. Pepper. This is their magnum opus. If you know one thing from Fountains of Wayne, it should be more than just Stacy's Mom. It should be the entire album Stacy's Mom came from. And then, like I said, this B-Sides album, Out of State Plates, I heard when it came out. I'm not sure if I even ever heard the whole thing, but they do a cover of Britney Spears' Baby One More Time on here. It's a 2 CD set of all of their B-sides and rarities. It's really cool. It's got a Kinks cover on here that they did for a Kinks tribute album. And then this one was big for a few years in alternative radio too, the Christmas single, I Want an Alien for Christmas. And there's a B-side as well, The Man in the Santa Suit. That didn't get a lot of airplay, but this actually, you can find both of these on Out of State Plates as well. They since it's all their B-sides and rarities, this is on there too, but I just happen to have the radio version of it. There's also another holiday song on Out of State Plates called Hanukkah Under the Stars. I don't remember that one. But, okay, so then that's all the great Fountains of Wayne stuff. And then he had this other band, Ivy, which, like I said, released 3 albums. I have all of these. I don't know if I've ever listened to these all the way through. Maybe back in the day when I used to do the New Music Show on our alternative station, I did listen to a lot of albums all the way through. Many, many, many more than I do these days. I remember this album had a couple of songs on it that I played on the New Music Show. Say Goodbye, Kite. It's called Guest Room. So it was him and a couple buddies. Fountains of Wayne had sort of disbanded after Utopia Parkway, and so he fell into this band, and then for a few years he was doing Ivy and Fountains of Wayne simultaneously. But I also want to talk to you about some of the other stuff he has done. I've been extolling the virtues for a couple of months now about Crazy Ex-Girlfriend. Now, this is a show that I love. It is up for streaming right now. You can get all the seasons on Netflix, I believe it is. I put it in my top 20 shows you could binge during the quarantine. It was number 3 on my top 10 comedies of the decade. And Adam Schlesinger was the music director for that series and wrote or co-wrote a lot of the songs. He was nominated for several Emmys, finally winning one in, I think, season 3. for one of the songs. But he already had an Emmy Award because he also wrote music for awards shows, and he wrote the opening and closing numbers for the Tonys the one year, and he got an Emmy Award, not just a nomination, for that song. So he's won a couple of Emmy Awards for his work, and not only that, but he's written songs for artists as diverse as the Jonas Brothers, the Monkees. He's worked with a lot of big names like that, and then he's worked with a lot of smaller, more hip groups or whatever, the Click Five and Bowling for Soup and a lot of stuff like that. But he just had a real great knack for writing pop hooks. The songs in Crazy Ex-Girlfriend are so good. I don't actually have any of their CDs, but they've released soundtrack CDs as well. I don't know if they've all come out on physical CDs. As you can tell, I still love physical media. I buy DVDs and CDs still to this day. But I know digitally they've released a bunch of the songs on various soundtracks for Crazy Ex-Girlfriend seasons. But those songs were all so good. They wove together the threads of the show so very well. And his songs would always have to do with whatever the plot was. I don't know if they just came to him and said, hey, our plot this week is about an STD, or our plot this week is about, feeling like a loser next to your hot friend, or whatever. And he would just come up with that. I don't know if that was the process or what, but, his songs always had to do with the plot, and they were all put together so very well. With Rachel Bloom, the star of the show, and the cast, all could sing really well, and brought his music to life. But I just wanted to sort of tell you guys how I feel about this dude. I was a huge fan of his work. That Thing You Do, honestly, is in my top 5 favorite films of all time. And Crazy Ex-Girlfriend, I keep talking about that. So his music has been a part of my pop culture sensibilities for 25 years almost now. So this to me was devastating, and really, really just hit home how hard this coronavirus is going. I go for walks when it's nice outside, but for the most part I stay inside. I have not seen my friends in a long time. I'm definitely doing my part. I hope you do too. That's part of the reason I've been doing these videos every day, because it gives me a reason to take a shower every day, and B, it gives me something to do, and hopefully something for you guys to enjoy. But I just wanted to kind of throw that out there about Adam Schlesinger. I thought this was a very, very brilliant songwriter, and from all accounts, I mean, the people I know or have known in the radio industry that have interviewed him or have met him have all said just he is such a nice guy. He was so happy about his success and not, he didn't get a swelled head about it. And I guess he liked sort of being under the radar. Yeah, Stacy's Mom was a big hit, but the video about that was much less about the band than it was about the hot woman. I think it was Rachel Hunter, the model that was the mom in the video. But he really liked sort of working more behind the scenes and not having necessarily hit songs, but contributing to either other people's albums or writing for TV and movies. So this guy was just a great songwriter. He will certainly be missed by many, and not to slight anybody else in the industry or out in the real world that has suffered from coronavirus or even died from it. But everybody always sort of perks their ears up a little more when they hear about a celebrity going through it. Obviously, the first big celebrity, speaking of That Thing You Do, Mr. Tom Hanks was the first celebrity of an A-list stature to be diagnosed with the coronavirus. Now, I understand he's, pretty much recovered, and him and Rita are at home, and that's great. But, yeah, it's a scary thing. And to know that Adam was only 52 when he passed is another one that's just like, man, I mean, that's me in literally 10 years, and I don't think of myself as an old person, which is what we were told the coronavirus likes to attack the most. So, he may have had other autoimmune issues, I don't know, but But when I heard he had lapsed into the coma and then a day later passed away, I just felt like I had to do a tribute video. So there you go. That's my love for Adam Schlesinger. Rest in peace, dude. Tomorrow I will have the TV reviews that I was going to do today, and then Saturday I think I'll have the movie reviews for you for this week. There's a bunch of new movies up on streaming services that have recently been in theaters, so I want to get to those. So yeah, thank you so much for watching. Comment below about the impact that Fountains of Wayne or That Thing You Do or Crazy Ex-Girlfriend had on your life. And thanks so much for watching. Stay safe. Bye.